Welcome to the Nitty Gritty Podcast. Andrew Van Buren, my guest of the day.
Numero dos.
Numero dos. I've never been the host before. I've been on a few of these podcasts as a guest because I'm super interesting.
And
right?
I've never been a guest because I have nothing interesting to say.
That's not true. We're gonna dig in. We're gonna find something fun to say. So we are gonna be co-hosts on this show normally.
Yep.
But we thought it would be a good idea to just introduce both of us as guests so people can kind of get to know us. And people can find out that Andrew actually does have some interesting and fun facts about himself. Yes, he is a 75-year-old wealthy senior citizen trapped in a very fit and tight 34-year-old body.
It's not, hey,
Maybe a 34-year-old person in a 29-year-old's body because he eats like a girl.
But I like to sleep.
I know, a little too much.
So someone once asked me if I had a superpower. It's falling asleep. That's my superpower.
See, my superpower is the opposite, although it is fading fast.
No, I can't remember the last time I was awake when an airplane took off. I'm asleep
on every airplane, no matter what time it's at.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if middle of the day. Doesn't matter if the kids are with us. I sit down on an airplane sleep, even if I'm in the middle.
Whoa.
I'm just like, I'm out.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. I wonder if that'll get worse as you get older.
I don't know. It's kind of weird.
You've been like this as a kid?
So when I was little, my mom would always take me for a drive. Like if I wouldn't fall asleep, she'd just throw me in the car and drive, and I'd be out.
That's true. We've done that with our kids before. That does kind of work pretty well.
And friends, still to this day, if you and I are driving to Salt Lake and you're driving, I'll fall asleep.
See, I fall asleep when I get home after work. I sit in the recliner, right? And for some reason, it is like 40 minutes of me snoring and waking myself up. And then it goes away, and then I'm good again. But I don't know why. When I get home, I do the same thing every day. I just need to not sit in that chair.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew Van Buren, right?
That's me.
34 years old.
Yep.
What's your sign? I'm sure there's people that care about that out there. I don't give a crap about it. But
I don't even know.
Shut up.
Scorpio, is that a sign?
Yeah, it's a sign.
Okay, then that's what it is.
I don't know if that means anything. I mean, you're a really good basketball player.
I have no idea.
I know your wife's super attracted to you.
I hope so.
Because you look good when you sleep.
Very.
Because that's pretty much all you do at home, right?
Mouth open.
Oh, Andrew. Okay, so a little premise. Andrew and I are brother-in-laws, right?
Yep.
So we married sisters. I married Ashley. You married Jenna, the youngest sister. You've had a little bit of a social media. Tell us about that. What has been your problem with social media for years? Because until 3 months ago?
Oh.
You were non-existent.
All of the apps were deleted.
So answer two questions for me. Okay. One, why were you absent for so long? And I want a real answer.
Okay.
Like even if it means making fun of people.
Okay.
Two, what brought you back?
Okay, so what I don't like about social media is I feel like it's all fake.
Right.
So everyone only posts and I was guilty of it too. I'm not going to post a picture of me at my office working, right?
Right.
No one wants to see that. But if I go on a cool trip, you better believe I'm going to post a picture of it.
Sure.
Or if I'm golfing and not working, post a picture.
Right.
Right. So it was more than anything. I got annoyed that everyone was falling into this, I don't know, their false sense of reality and especially people would start comparing their lives to it. Oh, look what they're always doing. Or women, oh, she's got to be such a good mom because look what she can do.
Her house is so clean.
It's clean.
You don't see her housekeepers in the background.
Yeah.
They're out of frame.
And then the number one pet peeve was in my mind thinking how many times it took them to get the picture that they posted. Because you can't tell me that someone's going to take a selfie and snap one and they're like, oh yeah, that's the one.
Of course.
So they're sitting there and they're catching all the angles. And I can just envision this in my head as I see it post of how many times it took him to get to it, and it just bugged me. Like
Sure.
thinking how many times it took that person to get their picture.
Right. So
So-
you sound like my wife. My wife will be watching TV and she'll be scrolling and she just gets pissed off. I'm like, what are you mad about? Like, oh, this post, it drives me crazy. I'm like, so why are you looking at it?
Yeah.
Why are you following that person? Well, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, we've had that discussion so many times.
So I find it interesting though that there are things. So you just didn't want to feel like you were also participating in that social media behavior, or did you just not think you had anything interesting to say, or do, or show?
Probably, honestly, a little bit of both.
Right.
But also, I was annoyed at myself at how much time I spent on those apps
Okay,
because
that's a healthy answer.
I'm a fidgeter. So
Right.
if I watch TV, I have to have the remote in my hand, and unconsciously, I'm just going to flip it the whole time. Like,
Right.
I'm
Scroll.
always playing with something. Like I had to get one of these fake wedding rings because when I had the real one, I never had it on. It was always in my finger. I was flipping it. I was twirling it. And so with my phone, if I don't have anything else, I'm just flipping my phone. And then I found myself just mindlessly opening up,
Social media.
all the social media. And I was like, I don't care. Like, I don't care what you're doing with your life right now. Why am I looking at it?
Right.
And so I was like, hey, I'm done. Deleted it. And it was awesome.
Hey, I mean, there's a part of me. If I didn't have a business, if you look at I have a personal Instagram and then a business Instagram.
Yeah.
I probably post once, maybe 4 times a year on my personal, just because I need low hanging fruit. That's the hard part about the business one for me is I've got to have something really easy, like, oh, this would be cool. I should take a picture of this and put it on there.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you kind of have the same issue. Like you can't, it's hard to just think of, you're a humble guy, right? You're not going to sit there and go, what can I do to get social media presence today?
No.
Right.
And
But you also don't want to fall into that trap. So with all of that said, what changed your mind? Because you're back. You're back, baby.
I'm a sellout.
You're
It's easy.
you're not a sellout.
It's
Come on.
easy as that.
No, it's not. What is it really?
The honest truth is business.
There it is.
I mean, I'm going to shoot you
I was
straight.
going to say it if you didn't say
The
it.
only reason I got back on was because I want to find a way to use it for good.
Right. And I think there's a lot of ways to use it for good.
Yeah.
Are you starting to see that now? Are you seeing a more healthy side of it, or is it still hard for you?
So it's easier. It's
Right.
not easy. I still find myself, if I have my phone, like I'll just open it up. But like I got in the habit of when I get home from work, I just put my phone in a different room, or I don't keep it around my body, because if it's
Right.
around me, I'll just pick it up and get on it.
Right.
I mean, but honestly, the other thing is like, if you're going to do something like a podcast, or if you're going to do any kind of online marketing, you have to have
Right.
you
gotta
have to have a
there.
presence. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do you grow that but do it, authentically?
Right.
Like, how can you do it without blasting people or posting stuff that no one really cares about?
Right.
And then I come into like, honestly, no one really cares what I have to say or do. Like no one really cares. And it's because, I mean, do you really care?
I think you might be surprised. You've got some pretty good things to say.
Yeah.
I think you need to stop worrying about what everybody else thinks and just do your thing. As hard as that is,
Yeah.
you're a pretty sharp guy, and we're going to get into that.
Oh boy.
We're going to find out just how sharp Andrew Van Buren is. I've been trying to get him to manage my money for 6 months, and I can't get him to do it. He won't send me the worksheet.
That's not my fault. It's Brent's.
Brent, damn it. Quack. Is that what you're going to do right there? Quack. Okay, so business. Let's talk business for a minute.
Let's do it.
Because I think there's a lot to talk about in your field.
Okay.
Because I think there's some paradigms that people have about things, what you do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes from just not understanding what people like you do. And it also probably has to do a lot with, there's a lot of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you call yourself when somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? What's your answer?
I don't have a good answer, which is sad because
Right.
I love what I do, but I hate the reputation of my industry.
Right.
Because if you say, oh, I do financial planning or wealth management or I'm an advisor, everyone knows someone
Right.
who is doing it.
Sure.
And most people have had a pretty bad experience
Right.
from someone, whether they feel, I don't know, for whatever reason it was. And so what I enjoy doing, the reason I got into it was the planning side, the strategic, the planning, the consulting. And so now, as I've kind of evolved, it's become more like business consulting. So
Right.
work with business owners, do strategic planning and consulting.
You work with some business owners.
Some.
I mean, not all of them. Right. I mean, there's a waiting list.
I mean, I don't work with restaurants that
There's a
serve
400-pound guy at the front of the
brisket.
line. Son of a. Anyways, keep going. Sorry.
So, but yeah, so that's what I do. And it's,
So, what's your favorite type? Like, what? You got to say something. So, what do you do for a living, Andrew?
I do business consulting.
Business consulting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that works. So, what's the name of your company?
Aventus.
Aventus. So,
Yep.
where did that come from?
I hired Red Ryder and Clark Taylor.
Uh-huh.
I'm not creative. So a peek into me. So if you remember, it's been a long time. There was this commercial. It was from, I think it was called BASF, the chemical company.
Right. Huge company, right?
Yeah. And their commercial was, we don't make the things you buy. We make the things you buy better.
Oh.
That was kind of their tagline. Like, that's like who I am. Like, I'm not creative. I don't make anything,
Right.
but I can show up and make something better.
Okay.
And so, like, I'm not going to come up with a name, but like once it's there, I feel like I can add something to it. So
Right.
going back to Red Ryder, you have your brainstorm sessions where you talk about what the meaning is or what kind of brand you're trying to build.
So that's what Red Ryder does, just so everybody understands. They
Marketing, they're a creative agency,
branding and
basically.
marketing, okay.
Yeah, so they'll do everything. So we went through the name, the logo, the colors, all that kind of stuff. Website, everything's kind of been with them. So Aventus, the root comes from the Roman god, Bonus Eventus.
Uh-huh.
And what's cool is like the literal translation of Bonus Eventus is good outcome. And so like in my line of work, the only thing I'm looking for is the outcome.
Right.
Like how we get there can change. It's different. Everyone can have their opinion on how you're trying to get there, but no one can argue with the outcome, right?
Sure.
And so you're always trying to get that good outcome. And then one step further, he was the god of success in business. And so now you're working
Really?
with business owners looking for good outcomes.
Right.
And the name of the company means good outcome from the God who was success in business.
So now I know I have to wait for you so long because you're like a god. You're like a deity.
I am.
And good things come to those who wait. I got to be patient.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like that. So rolling off of that, we're close,
Yeah.
right? We've become pretty close buddies. Not just because we married sisters, but I think that it's funny that you say you can take something to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
So in your own business, there's been a little transformation.
Yep.
You used to be with another group with some partners.
Yep.
And you broke away.
Yep.
And I think from the little that I know, it's kind of exactly that, right? You're looking to take something and make it better.
Yeah.
So I want everybody to kind of hear what you're doing different. Because like you said, this is a very saturated field.
Yeah, for sure.
Everyone thinks they know what they're doing. Personally for me, getting to know you, it's easy to trust you, but you can also see that, it kind of goes to your fidgeting. You can always kind of see the wheels spinning.
Yeah.
You're a quiet guy. You're a stoic guy. I think we get along good because you need somebody like me in your life, but I also need somebody like you in my life.
We can balance it out a little
right.
bit.
I'm unhealthy. He's healthy. I'm funny. You're funny, just in a different way.
I'm like rude, sarcastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's not rude. You're just, you like to kick up dust a little, but it's loving. Anyway, sorry, we're going off on a tangent. But for me personally, the reason that I'm still waiting is because, one, it's very obvious that you're probably a lot smarter than you give yourself credit for. But two, you are looking for better ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And you're taking risks.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some experience with that.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I want you to tell the story, obviously, but you took a risk.
Yeah.
You left your previous company.
Yep.
To start your own thing. We're sitting in your office right now. So what is it that you're doing differently than what you're going to find in most places as far as wealth management and financial planning goes?
So if you look at kind of the industry in general, there you have all sorts of ways that you can get into it. You have different levels of service, and there's all sorts of products. I mean, my career is interesting because I've touched on almost all of them. Like, I originally got into it because I had a friend talk to me about coming to just like a financial, I don't know, call it a presentation, whatever you want to call it. Say, hey, I have a friend who he makes really good money in finance. Do you want to come chat with him? I was like, oh yeah, I'll go talk to that guy. Like I've always enjoyed talking to people, hearing their story. You know, I've never said no to a meeting before. So I went, and even going back to high school, like I always joked around, like I was that guy that I read finance books in high school. Like I wrote like finance and business books. Like my family would make fun of me because I would go on vacation.
What did they say about the old man and a young, healthy body?
You know? And so like there's just always been something that's been intriguing, like going back to making it better, like the rule of money.
Right.
Like how have people done it? And like what are the rules? Like how can you either take advantage of those or anyways. So I got going, started at one place, and I was told it was, financial planning. That's how everyone markets themselves. I got into it, and it was more of a life insurance sales company with a financial planning arm.
Gotcha.
And so, like, if you look behind the curtains, my compensation, everything that I did was contingent on how many life insurance policies I sold.
You were a salesman.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, I would meet with people and we would talk about planning, and we would do planning, but there was always, it had to come back to life insurance somehow. Sure. Like I remember we'd go and meet someone, and my manager, his comment would be, all right, how are we going to sell this guy a policy?
Right.
Yeah,
that's not good.
But it is what it is. You don't know any different. Luckily, I had a couple of clients who trusted me enough and asked me to do like some pretty big stuff for them.
Right.
I mean, my background is in sales, did the door-to-door thing. I'd always been in it. So what do you do when someone asks you? You say yes, and you figure it out.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So they started asking, can I do all these like kind of high-level planning things? And I was like, oh, yeah, for sure. And then like after I was like, oh, I got to figure out how to get this done. I got to know who to talk to. So I started talking to accountants and attorneys and, guys who had been in the business for a while. I'm big on like mentorship.
Sure.
So you find people who have been there and who have done that. And I would just attach myself to them.
Right.
And I would just learn as much as I possibly could. And you take it back to the client, you start doing different things. And what happened is it became kind of painfully obvious that where I was not a long-term fit.
Right.
It wasn't where I was going to be long-term. I mean, it was really good while I was there. I found early success. I mean, my first year there, I was only there like 6 or 8 months, but I was top 10 in the company.
Right.
And then I was that way for the 3 years I was there. And then after that, I convinced a couple of the other advisors, guys that I worked with. I said, hey, we can do this better. Like, we need to be able to do things a little bit differently. We don't want to just sell life insurance. We want to be able to do real planning.
Sure.
So we left and we started the Norden Group.
Okay.
And the whole idea behind Norden was, at the time, we were obsessed with the show Suits.
I love Suits. Oh, I love it.
So we were going to build Suits.
I wish Brent was Donna. I really do.
He's Lewis.
He's Lewis. I love Lewis.
I do too.
You get lit up.
Lewis is probably.
Lewis is the greatest.
That mug.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I hope everybody watches Suits out there.
Yeah.
Last season coming up in July.
Yeah. So, anyways, we were obsessed with Suits.
Right.
And so we wanted to build Norden like a law firm, where different partners had different areas of expertise. The whole idea was we were trying to do things differently than what we had been exposed to in the business. Right. Most of the advisors we were at our old firm, they sold life insurance and did investing on the side. I didn't think that was real planning. I just didn't.
Right.
I thought you could do it a little bit better.
Right.
So that's where Norton was built, and kind of that was the brainchild behind it. And so each partner had their area of expertise or the clients that they enjoyed working with, where they felt like, because in order to be successful, you've got to become obsessed with something.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I was obsessed with learning tools and strategies that would help people. Like I love being able to play a part in someone's success, right? And so like I became fanatical about how can I help entrepreneurs and business owners, because I loved being around them. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur at heart.
Oh, you are one.
And so I started to really, really learn what types of planning, what types of strategies were kind of that moved the needle,
right.
Specifically around taxes, right? Anyways, we're just getting way too technical.
No, I like it. I think it's good.
So we built it out that way. But then what started to happen was kind of the nature of the structure of the business is most advisors, not because of them, but because the business structure in which they work, they normally get paid by a commission by selling a product like I used to, or you do planning and then you manage their money.
Right.
And you get paid for managing their money.
Brings us to the ugliest word in finance.
What?
Fees.
Yeah, the F word.
Fees.
None
of us even know what the hell they are. And most of the planners don't even know what they are.
No.
Right?
They don't. Honestly, it was disheartening. I mean, I'd been in the industry for 5 years, and you'd go to these national conventions,
right?
And you'd hear guys who were literally making $1 million, and you'd hear the questions they asked. And I was like, how in the world have you convinced so many people to give you their money? I was blown away. That I was like, I know more than you.
Right.
Like, how is this possible?
It is crazy.
And so
I think that happens in a lot of industries.
Oh yeah.
There are some really dumb rich people out there.
It's crazy. And so but that's the business model. That's advisory. That's how most advisors get paid. Well, what happened is I had clients. If you're a business owner, where's your biggest rate of return typically? Your business, right?
Right.
Or for one reason or another, have a lot of friends and clients who love investing in real estate.
Right.
And so I was always battling this where, okay, they need a lot of help planning, what to do on taxes, how to structure deals, are they protected? All of these things that are important, but they didn't want to put money in the stock market.
Right.
And so they weren't profitable clients. I mean, if you're being like brutally honest, there started to get some tension in the group because I was spending all of my time working with clients who weren't bringing in any revenue to the business.
Gotcha.
And so the hope was that you do all this planning for them, so one day they sell and they have however much money,
and you get a cut of that.
And then they come back to you and say, hey, for all the
now,
good work
all
you've
of
been
you
doing.
got a cut of that, right?
For
like,
sure.
Is that what you're saying? And that's where kind of the issue started happening, is like, hey, you're not pulling your weight because your clients are stock market people. And okay, interesting. That would be hard.
And so it kind of just got me thinking a little bit on, either I need to stop working with this type of person and go work with, all advisors are wanting to work with retirees because they have just a pile of money.
Right.
They've worked their whole career, and now they just need to turn that money into income, right?
Right.
So that's what they were doing. Well, I didn't want to stop working with business owners and entrepreneurs. I enjoy being around them.
Sure.
It's fun.
Right.
And so
it's the energy that you like.
Absolutely.
Sounds like.
And then I joined a coaching program last year, and it was all on like mindset, like how to work through like limiting beliefs and all this kind of stuff. And so it started to kind of change how I looked at business in general.
Did you just open up to us?
A little bit.
Oh, this is exciting.
So,
okay.
So the coaching program started to give me the confidence and the motivation to do something a little bit different again.
Right.
Because the other thing about the conference is, if you go to like an advisor conference, dude, everyone looks the same.
Oh, yeah.
There's 1,000 people in there, but it's all the same person.
I just picture the Boiler Room. You ever see that show?
Yeah.
Or maybe even Suits. I just imagine a lot of cologne.
A lot of cologne.
A lot of really nice suits.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a lot of like...
Yeah, like you're...
I can't say the word I want to use to perfectly describe this.
But here's the thing. You're going to a conference with advisors. Why are you wearing a 3-piece suit? Who were you there to impress?
Right. You just want to show off your fees.
I mean, it was so annoying. And then everyone just like walked around like with this measuring stick, like, how big's your firm? That's the only question people ask.
Right.
And then you'll talk to an advisor, dude, how things are going? Bro, I just picked up a $10 million account. It's like, I don't care.
People ask me that about my meat all the time. How big are your briskets? Sorry, got distracted.
Oh.
No, and that would suck. I mean, that
was
would
just
not
annoying,
be fun.
right? And
that's not your style either, because you are a fairly, most of the people I've met in your industry are fairly boisterous.
Yeah.
Showmen, right? They kind of show it off. I don't want to say real estate agents because they're not all like that, but there's a certain swagger that almost seems artificial. Mm-hmm. That they're just kind of puffing out their chest and you definitely don't seem to play that game.
Like I would show up to those conferences in what I consider to be like dressed up. It was a golf shirt tucked in.
Right. Well, because you're probably going to golf later.
Like that was me. And like everyone looked at me like, are you like an assistant? Like, right. No, but I don't believe in like being formal. Like right. I take my job serious, but that doesn't mean that I take myself serious.
Right. And I think that's important. I had a guy I used to work for named Rob Lamb. I sold hot tubs right after my mission. He was one of the owners of this business and really successful guy. And he used to go buy new cars every couple of years. And we're talking like, I remember when he bought a Viper, right when they came out. But he made it he on purpose, he would put on his like farming clothes, his ranching clothes, because he had big property and he farmed it all. And he'd walk in there and he'd have enough cash to buy any car there. But he'd look like a dingy. Uh-huh. And the very first salesman that took him seriously, he just bought the car. Yeah. But it's amazing how many he had to go through, like before somebody took him serious. Yeah. But the person that finally did and treated him right, you can't judge a book by its cover.
No. Well, and especially with money, man, perception is reality. And in this industry, the term is perception is reality. Right. So advisors dress up. And I mean, when I met with clients, I was in a shirt and a tie. And it's not that I don't like dressing up. I enjoy dressing up. Like it's not that I don't enjoy it.
You have a nice body.
But, well, I work really hard.
Right.
Every time I put a tie on, it felt like I was selling something.
I get that. I get that for sure.
And so I never truly felt comfortable. And I'd have clients make comments all the time, like, dude, why are you in a tie? Because they'd show up in shorts and a t-shirt. Yep. And I'm in a shirt and a tie because that's what the industry says you're supposed to do, right?
Absolutely.
There are these industry norms that you can't break. You're supposed to work 80 hours a week. You're supposed to be in the office at 6 a.m. You're supposed to not leave until 8 p.m. You're supposed you're supposed to be on call 24/7. I mean, that is what it takes to be successful. And you have to work with everyone. Anyways, there's a whole list of things, right? Well, I got so sidetracked.
No, and it's so kind of reeling this all back in. I mean, there's the laundry list of things that just made you finally kind of snap.
Well,
right? Yeah. And so...
Well, and here's the thing. It all came back to one conversation. And this is funny. He'll probably hear this. Brett Munson.
Oh, I love Munson.
So...
Hi, Brett.
I mean, Munson and I have been boys since our mission. I mean, so it's been, 15 years since we've been good friends. And he called me, and it wasn't the first time that I've had a conversation like this. I've had it multiple times before. But at that stage, like going through the coaching, where I was at, what I was going through at Norden, and he just said, hey, Andrew, I need you to look at something for me. I know you're not going to want me to do it, but I need some help. And knowing Munson, he was just joking around, right? Of course,
which he always is.
But when he said, I know you don't want me to do it, I was like, dude, why? You really think that I'm not going to I don't want the best for you. It just,
Right.
it was like, why would you think that? And he was like, dude, it's because I don't know, like, what I'm going to do doesn't involve how you're going to get paid.
Right.
And so, like, I can't ask you to help me if
you're not going to get something for it.
You know what I mean? Or if I'm taking money out of the market to go do something else.
Right.
You know? And so there's always kind of that conflict in my mind that existed because, you know, people would come and they would say, a really common question is, hey, should I pay off my house? Right? So you could go down and you could break out the numbers. But at the end of the day, if you're being transparent and honest, if you're my client and I'm managing $1 million and you have a $500,000 mortgage, call it $1 million mortgage.
Right.
And you come to me and say, hey, should I pay off my house? The answer could be no. Like I can show you on paper why that answer is no. But in the back of your mind, are you thinking, well, if he says no, it's because he wants to keep my money.
Right.
You know, you've just had that little glimpse of, I don't know if I can really trust you.
Well, and this just popped in my head back. So the way that you did things before, and we'll get to the way that you're doing them now, but
Yeah.
the way that you did things before, what restricted you from giving them the answer that you wanted to give them?
Business.
Fees or what you were required to do as a part of the partnership or bring to the table? Or
No, so it was nothing like that. And most advisors give the correct advice.
The correct advice or the advice they want to give?
The correct advice.
Okay.
But that doesn't change the fact that there's still a conflict there.
Absolutely.
Because here's the thing. If I tell you to go pay off your house or go buy this land or go start a business, you're going to take that money out. So now the business is not making any money, right? I'm not a charity. I'm not that good of a guy that I'm just going to do all the work for free.
Sure.
You know? And so what happens if you're having a bad day and you're financially stressed? You know, something happens and all of a sudden you had a huge client come to you and say, hey, I'm going to pull all of my money because I'm going to go do this other investment.
Right.
You know? And so,
even though that might benefit them greatly, it hurts you. So you may, some advisor may say like, I don't know, I think we can do better.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's a problem.
Exactly. And I mean, if you talk to advisors, like last week I was up in Idaho and I was talking about kind of my new model and my advisor's like, oh, that's so awesome. He's like, I give away so much money every year. You know,
Explain that to me.
He kind of wore it as like a badge of honor. He's like, I told clients to do so many things that I didn't get paid on, you know? And it's like, that's awesome that you're doing that. But at the same time, like,
why shouldn't you be paid for it?
Not why shouldn't you, but are you always going to?
Right.
Like, as long as there's the opportunity for conflict, I just felt like, and it's because people would make comments on it.
And you'll never truly have your client's best interests at heart. I mean,
it's a fine
line. It's a fine line, right? Because you do need to get paid for your expertise, but
for sure,
there are so many. It sounds like there's so many things that would limit you from giving them exactly, the right advice. That'd be a tricky road to walk. I think.
Well, like if they came and, hey, I want you to help me plan how I'm going to go buy this business, it might require 20 hours.
Right.
But I'm not going to get paid on any of it. So am I really going to give them my best effort?
Absolutely not.
You know?
Don't get mad at me. I'm sorry. Okay. So I think this brings us to the exciting part.
Yeah.
How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. So obviously all this stuff kind of built up.
Yeah.
And I just learned this, about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that's when I hopped in line, right? And I'm still in line. Okay. I have a pretty successful business, but,
hey,
but you be quiet. I'm talking. Okay. You shut up. I'm about to say some really cool things about you.
Okay.
So I think it all goes back to your desire to take something and make it better, right? So you do that for your clients, but it's like, hey, I'm going to do this for me. So how do I take what I do, my expertise, get rid of all these limiting, issues, whether it be fees or commissions or whatever? How can I help associates, friends, do exactly what they want to do and not have to worry about it hurting me or not maybe affecting my bottom line.
Yeah.
Like I can still be successful helping them no matter what they do with their money.
Yep.
How did you do that?
So that's where Aventus was born. So the whole concept behind it is to be able to provide that no strings attached advice.
Right.
And ultimately investing, whenever you talk about financial advice and investing is always kind of the center. That's where most people kind of come to. That's what they ask about. Everything is centered around the investments. But the truth is that is one leg of what you do.
Right.
And so what Aventus does is the whole purpose to create these plans. And when you look at kind of what wealth is and what success is, it's not money, it's time. And so to work with someone and help create more time for them. And how do you do that? You provide better planning, you get them better investments, you get better tax planning, you do better business planning. You know, there's all these different moving pieces that they are trying to manage themselves.
Sure.
And when you have a business owner, entrepreneur who has done it themselves, and most people are getting to a level to where kind of they're more successful than maybe their family was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so where do they turn to for advice? I mean, they're not Qualtrics. They're not selling for $8 billion. You know,
right. That was awesome.
You know, but they're a successful business who's generating, you know, millions of dollars in revenue. And they didn't go to school. They didn't go to Harvard. They didn't go to Yale. You know, they don't have this fancy degree. They just kind of figured it out and built a really successful business. And so now it's up to them to manage all these different moving pieces, and not only all the moving pieces, all of the people who manage those moving pieces.
Exactly.
You know, and so it's
hard to find time for that.
Well, it's unfair to expect them to be able to do it.
I mean, for me, I think a lot of people kind of look at investing and saving for the future, and it's just not something that is taught. You know,
nowhere.
In school, like it's never. And you know, I just turned 40, and I finally just got to the point where I'm like, I gotta start, you know, wising up here.
Uh-huh.
And so I kind of flirt with it on my own, and I've learned a little bit, but I'm not really. I definitely want to save money.
Yeah.
But I'm not passionate about it. I'm passionate about my business.
Yeah.
So, but you know, in business, I've also learned, and you'll probably agree with this, is that you need to hire and surround yourself with people that are smarter than you are.
100%.
Especially in certain things. And so for me, it would make perfect sense to have somebody to kind of help me with that.
Yep.
And I bet a lot of business owners are in the same.
Absolutely, they are. Yeah, and it's funny, even people inside of the financial industry. Like I have a lot of clients who are in the financial world that most people would think they're doing it themselves, but they don't know all this stuff. They're focused on their one area.
Right.
You know, just like you with barbecue, you're not an expert in ice cream or chocolate chip cookies.
Tasting.
Thank you, Crumble.
Oh, yeah.
I was there last night. National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day.
Right. It's kind of sad that it kind of overshadowed Law Enforcement Memorial Day. I was a little bothered by that. You know, not to take a more depressing stance, but I saw more on freaking Chocolate Chip Day. It wasn't even Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. It was Chocolate Chip Day. And it was also the Memorial Day for fallen officers. And I was about to go like on a huge rant on social media. Enough about chocolate chips. But see, that's social media's fault. That's not your fault.
No.
Not a lot of us, you know, nobody knew.
And it's my stomach's fault. I love them.
Okay, sorry. I went off on a tangent.
I don't even remember what I was saying.
Me either. Okay, so, but one thing I want to kind of get back to is you've kind of said what you want to do different for your clients, but how are you doing different?
Okay.
What are you doing different as far as the fees and some of the other things that you had problems with selling things?
Yeah.
What are you doing different for you? Because I think time is important to a lot of us, like you said, but it's got to be important to you too, because I'm sure you want the same thing that you want to give your clients. So how are you creating that for yourself?
Yeah, it's exactly it. I want to provide my clients what I want. You know, I am my own client, if you will, right? And so what I would want. And that's how I try to approach things is if I were a client, what would I want?
Sure.
And I would want to know everything. Like I would want to see all the details. I'd want to see everything. I want to know exactly how it's going to work. And I want to trust that whoever I'm working with knows what they're doing and has my best interest at heart, right? Well, everyone says that, but when you look at how, most advisors will, how they use fees, it's a percentage of an account that's billed automatically. No one understands it.
I don't even think most of your advisors could tell you what those fees are.
Yeah.
Or even how they're structured.
Mm-mm. And most clients, if you asked them, even clients that I have, if you were to say, how much did he cost you? I don't know.
I got my little State Farm. I bought a mutual fund like years ago.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how long, but I get my little report at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And every year I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing made like $1,400.
Yeah.
And then I keep going down. I'm like, it made like $3.
Mm-hmm.
Like 90% of the increase went to fees.
Yeah. And it's just,
that's insane.
Yeah. And it's a common thing. There's just layers and layers of fees. And so once again, you can't ever eliminate it. And it's not that it's bad, right? Like the model fits for most people.
Right.
And so I'm not saying that advisory is bad. Like it's awesome. In the Norton Group, like my partners are phenomenal, right? Like we are great friends. We get along great. I have nothing bad to say. It's just I wanted to work with a different type of client in a different way. And so now instead of having different fees or having clients question or wonder, will you work with me on this, but maybe you probably don't want to work with me on that. So it's easy. It's transparent. There's a lot of things that kind of go into it, like how much time is it going to take? How complex is it? How many things are we managing? Like if you're a real estate investor and you have 20 properties, every year we should do an analysis on, is the property growing? Is your rent where it needs to be? Is your mortgage rate where it needs to be? Should we refinance? Should we take that money and buy another one? Should we get out of it? Should we go buy in a different market? All of these different things. And so
I just had a small stroke when you said that, all of that. And that's why you hire you.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you say I need an analysis, I'll just be like, you have my blessing.
Yeah.
Analyze.
Yeah.
Ready, set, go.
And so that's part of it. For other clients, it's like I was at lunch with one and he was talking about he was trying to just get some loan documents. He was building in an office building.
Right.
And he was like, it probably took me 50 man hours to get all of the stupid documents that they asked for because he'd invested a ton of money in a bunch of small businesses. So it's not like they have online records.
Right.
So he was having to track everything down. He's a really, really busy guy, and so someone who can help manage and take all of that stuff off their plate. Right. I mean, the whole goal is for the client to spend as little time as necessary on their own finances so they can spend their time doing something else. That
sounds good to me. But I think I just realized why you haven't sent me my worksheet.
Why?
Well, because you said your client was building an office building. I have a small restaurant in Orem, Utah. And I don't want to build a freaking office building.
See, that's what's awesome, though, is there's value to be given everywhere at all levels. And so my big thing is I always want, and going back to the go-giver, right? What's the first law? You provide more value ever than compensation you take.
Right.
I'll never work with someone if I don't think I'm going to provide them way more value than they'll ever pay me back in fees.
Hey, another barbecue. That's my brisket. I don't make hardly enough on that freaking meat to make it worth it. So enjoy your value, America.
Yeah.
Because that crap takes a lot of work, and I do not make much money on it. So, okay, so, I mean, I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, you're taking risks.
Yeah.
Which I think you need to be able to relate to the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that's really attractive to me because it's like, hey, you're bucking the trend. You're jumping into something that is a risk.
Yeah. Well,
and you have a lot of faith in yourself. I love it when people have guts, one, but two, they have faith in their abilities.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about them. They don't need to do things, they kind of buck the status quo, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I think that's really attractive. But then to say like, hey, this is what I want to create for you, because it's what you're creating for yourself. You're passionate about what you are, for lack of a better term, let's say selling to your customer, or maybe selling the process to them.
Here's the thing. There's such a bad connotation around selling. Selling's
Right.
not bad,
It's not.
right? But I mean, at the end of the day, you have to do something that you believe works.
Right.
Right. And so I wanted to do things the way I wanted to do them. And,
Well, and I
so
think,
far so good.
and I think people need to feel that. And that's why I will continue to wait in line to get in on this bad boy. On suits, they tend to always have a pro bono case that they're working on. It looks good for them.
Yeah.
So I just want you to keep that in mind. Okay? So the business side, I mean, that stuff's amazing. And it's amazing. There's so many different lanes we could go down.
Yeah.
It'd be really fun to pick your brain. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would have questions for you on how to do this, how to do that.
Yeah.
But I want to learn a little bit more about Andrew. We have a few more minutes.
Okay.
So a couple little podcast questions that I hear a lot that I like.
Okay.
Okay. You are obviously I've said this 4 times already, but a passionate person.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask this. I already know the answer,
Okay.
but I think it'd be kind of exciting to hear you talk about it. But what
Okay.
are you curious about right now?
What am I curious about
What's got your
right now?
attention? What's something outside of?
So I'm fascinated with the idea of masterminds right now. So I raised my hand. I totally bought Tony Robbins' latest course with Dean Graciosa. Totally bought it. I think that there's so much untapped potential in that area
Now, what did you say about Tony Robbins a few months ago?
that I had never really listened to him before.
That's not what he said. He's a liar. I'm just trying to find things that I was right about that he can say, like, you were right. You were right. Social media was one.
Cam's always told me to listen to Tony
I
Robbins.
love Tony Robbins.
And
oh, man.
I don't know why. I hadn't, right?
Right.
But man's unbelievable.
He's brilliant.
He's unbelievable. And so, yeah, I joke, going back to the old man thing, I fall asleep on the couch early. I'm drinking caffeinated drinks at night so I can stay up and go through his courses.
Right.
And I'm waking up at 5 a.m. so I can bust more courses out before I hit the gym.
I thought you were going to say to watch more NBA playoffs because you're a basketball junkie. That's your thing.
It's embarrassing. My wife has probably seen more of the playoffs this year than I have because I've slept through them.
Oh, my gosh.
And they've been phenomenal games. Like the 4 overtime game.
They have been. Until now.
I straight up slept through the 4 overtime game. Jenna was like, Andrew, wake up. Andrew, wake up.
It's been a good playoff season.
I know. But
hockey and basketball.
Yeah. So that's kind of currently outside of my job is that, and the whole podcasting world is learning about it and how it works and how the business side of it works. And it's funny, as you focus on something, now all I notice is man, there's a lot of this stuff out there.
Oh,
right.
A ton of it.
But it's just fun.
Right.
It's been a lot of fun kind of diving into it a little bit.
Well, there's a lot of financial planners.
Yes, there are.
There's a lot of restaurants.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean you can't kind of carve out your own slice. So yeah, everything that you see here, the mics, right? The TV, the camera, this is all Andrew and Brent.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun to watch. It's another reason why I'm waiting in line, right? for the business side is when you get an idea in your head. I'm kind of the same way, but I've been really excited about being a part of it. But you really dove in, and I mean, not just about how do we podcast, but the equipment, how to connect it all. Brent, you deserve some credit for this too. And I just sit back and get texts hey, we're going to do this today. When are we doing this? Hey, I need some pictures. Can you send this to them? It's oh my gosh. So it has been pretty fun to watch you take an idea and just, I mean, man, it's like blinders and you're drinking a caffeinated perk at night to stay awake longer.
Yeah.
To do Tony Robbins. And
so give me that extra hour.
That's right. So I'm obsessed with podcasts now because of you. And so it's that whenever I'm prepping, that's all I do.
Yeah.
I listen to podcasts. There are so many good ones out there. So I know a little bit about, I think upbringing is, I think a lot of people have stories about their upbringing that really are relevant to where they are
Yeah.
in their adult life or their success. You know, I feel like failure creates a lot of success. But you have kind of a different upbringing story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So, I mean, to sum it up, like change was the norm,
Right.
if you will. So I went to 5 different grade schools.
This is in Utah?
No.
No?
So started school in California, moved to Provo. So 1 school in California, 1 school in Provo, and then 3 schools in American Fork.
Oh, man. So it's like through 6th grade or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So through 6th grade, 5 different schools. And then randomly the other day I was counting, I moved 27 times before I was 24.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So why? Why all the moving?
So many reasons. I mean, when we were young, you know, parents getting different jobs and moving around, and then just me, like what I've done. I mean, lived in El Salvador for a couple of years, moved around a bunch then,
Right.
kind of gone and back and forth from school. I don't know. It's just kind of, I enjoy change. I enjoy the challenge of what change is. Like
Sure.
I really enjoy that. And so, I mean, that's kind of something. And obviously another kind of defining piece of me is my parents got divorced when I was in, I think, 4th grade. So I was 8 or 9 at the time. And I had a little sister who was 2 and like a little brother who was literally, I don't know, 6 months. Right. And so like at that time, I had to transition. I was no longer a kid. I kind of had to transition into a different role. It was awesome because like the relationship I have with my mom now is unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, it's not your typical mother-son relationship, right?
Sure.
I mean, we are so tight. And, you know, she got remarried to Tom, who for all reasons is my dad. I mean, like when I refer to people as my dad, like I'm referring to Tom.
Right.
And, you know, you bring a couple families together and there's always growing pains at the beginning. But at this stage where we're at, I consider everyone like brother and sister and mom and dad. Like there's no difference between anything. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think a lot of that stuff you have to learn from. I mean, going to all the different schools, you have to learn how to adapt. You have to be able to be easygoing.
Right.
You have to be able to make friends easily and get along with any type of person. Right. I mean, something else that's kind of funny is, I mean, I was really young for my grade. So I started school in California. So my birthday's November. In Utah, the cutoff is August. So I wouldn't have made it. But
Sure.
in California, it was December. Going into high school, I started high school when I was 14. Like I didn't turn 16 until November of my junior year.
Whoa.
You know, I mean, I was really young I mean, there was a lot of kids in the grade below me that were older than I was. And so like I've always kind of had that chip of being like the young kid.
Sure.
And then it's funny, like you look now in the industry that I'm at, like the average advisor is 55.
Really?
You know? And so like I've always been like the quote unquote young kid, like no matter what I do.
Right.
But I've also kind of used that as fuel. I mean, even like my sophomore year, I was 14 years old, my sophomore homecoming, and I asked a senior to homecoming.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
I made her come pick me up because I can't drive.
That is an amazing story.
You know, but it was just kind of like,
What's up, girl?
like,
You got to pick me up, though.
and it was more of a thing like, hey, you should do that. I was like, sure, why not? Let's do it. Like,
Wow.
What's the worst that can happen?
Oh, yeah.
And it was fun, you know, but I mean, so that kind of helps. As I look back on it, I don't really think much of it, but it is like this thing that's always on my mind. Like I always feel like I'm young.
Right.
I mean, most of my friends that I hang out with are older than I am. People that I work with are older than I am. You know, it's just kind of funny. So
You still feel young when you go to bed at 7:45?
I'm young at heart, Cam. I'm young at heart.
Well, I think it's funny because I think you can relate a lot of your personality. You know, because it's fun to watch you like family parties.
Yeah.
You kind of sit back and you're very observant.
Yeah.
Like when you get Andrew to laugh at something, it's rewarding. Like you have to earn it with you. You don't just laugh to laugh, right? And sometimes it's like you feel like you have to work a little harder because that stoic side might take over. but you're also super laid back. Like Jenna, your wife.
Yeah.
It's funny because I love you two to pieces, but if my wife talked to me the way that your wife does sometimes, it'd be like, excuse me? Andrew, get the kids. Andrew, hurry up. But it's not because she's like that. It's just that communication works with you because it doesn't affect you. I'm like, please, thank you.
See, and what's funny is like when we've been around you and you've like made a joke
Oh,
around
I
it.
always do.
But I've never once noticed it.
Oh,
Like
of course not.
I've never felt like she's asking for help, so sure, I'll help.
Right.
Like,
Well, I bet it's kind of comforting to know that you don't have to be like Ashley's like, sweetheart, would you mind helping me put the kids to bed? I'd really appreciate it. I'd be like, of course, honey, sure. I can't stand these kids. Get up here and help me put them to bed. I'm like, that's not how you ask. I'm such a jerk. But that's why I think my wife probably thinks you're a way better husband than I am. Gosh dang it. It makes us look so bad. But no, I think a lot of that probably comes from, my parents are divorced as well. And I had to kind of grow up fast. But it is amazing how I think, because you do have a I would call a high maturity level, right? Yeah. And I think you observing and kind of the way your personality is, you being observant and kind of watching how things are going around you, how to make things better. I bet a lot of that relates to some of those trials that you went through
sure. Yeah.
as a 4th and 5th grader. And so,
I mean, I have to take emotion out of decisions, right?
Sure.
It's like I can't get emotional about things, and I think a lot of that goes back to that for sure.
Well, and I think in money,
yeah,
that is probably a pretty vital.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Quality.
A very vital quality is not getting emotional with money would be hard.
Yeah.
For me.
Well, and I mean, even like the divorce, like for some people it's terrible. For us, like as I look back on it, like all I can see are like the positives that came from
sure.
it. You know,
and I mean that's
like,
what you need to do. It is hard to do that.
Yeah.
But
so I mean, you look back on all the things, and
you got Big Tom.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, like there are certain things, and I have a really bad memory one, so that helps. I don't remember much, if anything.
I like that too. I like to just see the roses.
And so like I look back, like, did you have a good day? Oh yeah, it was awesome. I mean, the only bad memory, and that now is a good memory, was when I got shot. Have I told you this story before?
Wait a minute. You've been shot?
Yeah.
With a gun?
Yeah.
Holy crap. I don't know that.
Oh, okay.
Let's talk. So I heard you've been shot.
Yeah. So
what in the?
So 8th grade, I had gotten one of those like super nice pellet guns, like the pump action.
Right.
I mean, and I had the pointy pellets. Like I probably had pumped that thing like 16 times. So there's some So we lived at our house, and there was a field behind it, and there was a bunch of magpies and like pheasants that would run around in the field.
Satan's bird is what I call it. Go ahead.
And so I was like, I'm gonna go hunting. And so I get my pellet gun. I pump it as many. I'm literally like I couldn't do it any longer.
Right.
And I have the pointy pellets because I wanted to kill the bird. I didn't want to just shoot it.
As you should with magpies.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm out there. I'm not a very good hunter because I didn't find anything. So I came back to eat lunch, and me being the dumb kid I was, I just put the safety on, and I'm sitting at our counter eating lunch, and like all of a sudden I hear the gun go off, and I flip around, and my brother is standing like this, holding the gun, and when I see him, all of a sudden I just feel this pain on my shoulder. So I just grab my shoulder like this, and I pull it out, and just blood just all over my hand. And I just see it, and I look at my brother, and I just scream. I'm like, ah! And like I got up to run, and like he thought I was chasing him, so he just took out. Like he's gone. Like it's just the two of us at home, and he is out. Like he is out of the house. He's running. I just run into our living room, just like super dramatic, like Bachelor style dramatic. Like I love
The Bachelor.
I collapse onto our couch, and like so this is kind of like a personal story, but then some stranger walks into the house, gets a towel, cleans me up, gets me calmed down, calls the ambulance, calls my parents. Because
so it was just you and your brother.
yeah, and he's still in the street. He's gone.
Oh,
right?
Oh my god!
So this stranger walks in and gets calmed down, ambulance, all that kind of stuff, right? And then when everyone was there, he left. He was gone. So I get the ambulance gets there. They're asking me what happened. So it entered like right here, like on my shoulder blade, right? So
in the back.
I'm on my back, on my left shoulder blade,
Right.
and they're just like, "Oh, it's stupid kid. You got shot by a pellet gun. It's not that big a deal." Like stood me up, walked me out. Like we live literally a minute, maybe two from the hospital. So like just drive to the hospital. So like I drove and they did an x-ray just to see like where the pellet was. And like when they came back with the results of the x-ray, like doctor was white. I was like, "Oh, this is weird." And he's like, for some reason, I think the guy who drove, like the ambulance guy was with him as well. And he was like super white and apologetic. So the pellet had entered, ricocheted off of my shoulder blade and traveled all the way across my spine and was 1/16 of a millimeter away from my spinal cord and paralyzing me.
Holy crap!
So I was 1/16 of a millimeter away from being paralyzed from the neck down.
From a pellet gun.
From a pellet gun.
Oh my gosh!
So
How old were you again?
8th grade.
Oh,
And so like after that, like have surgery, get it taken out. Like everything was fine. It didn't move, but like you could tell like the what are they called?
paramedic.
Paramedic.
Yeah.
Like the paramedic, like he felt so bad that he had me like moving around because he's like, what if it would have like
Yeah.
nudged or moved just a little bit, or what if I pushed it further in? So I mean, I have a handful of stories that are,
That's crazy.
I firmly believe that God is looking out for me. Like
Right.
I don't sugarcoat that. Like I'm here for a reason, and I know that.
Right.
But anyways, looking back, like that's one. It's a funny story now. Like even on our last trip,
Your poor mother. Do you imagine?
oh man, it's funny because when we were on our last trip, Tom's writing like a self-biography about himself, and he got to this point, and he was like,
Like messed him up?
well, no, he's like, what happened? He's like, I don't really remember.
Oh my god.
And so we like retold the story, and he's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.